say real quick that I have a colleague in here, McCall, who will be helping me answer questions in the chat as they come up. So if you do have anything as we're going through here, pop in your mind and you got a question that you want answered, feel free to plunk it in the chat and we'll get to it as fast as we can. So yes, as Greta said, my name is Kyle McCall. I'm a Business Development and Commercialization Manager with the Ontario Centre of Innovation. And today we're going to cover, provide a bit of an overview of what we do at OCI, talk about the programs we offer, and really focus in on the two I think that are most relevant for today's audience. So without further ado, here we go. So what we do, so OCI, in a nutshell, is a not-for-profit organization that receives government funding from the Ministry of Economic Job Creation and Trade to support innovative companies and industries across Ontario, helping them advance those technologies and bring those innovations to market. I'm not going to bother reading the vision, mission, and mandate. They're right there for you, and they're also available on our website at oc-innovation.ca. Again, lots of great information there. If you want to peruse it, the website as we're going through this, by all means, I definitely encourage it. But really what we're hoping to do and be at OCI is that center of innovation for all things startups and companies in Ontario, again, helping them get connected to the resources that they need to grow and scale their business and innovate and develop those game-changing technologies that we all know you're working on. So how we do it, we like to put ourselves right there in the center between the collaboration, the connection, and the convening. So we're happy to participate in events like this with our various community partners across Ontario. Again, thank you to the folks at Innovation Factory and the Forge for hosting and putting this on. Can't do these kinds of events without our help from the various ecosystem partners that we touch on. And really, again, what our goal here is to build capacity within the ecosystem and support the advancing of those technologies. So we host events. We can connect the dots between various industries and the companies that are working in them, really all in an effort to support the commercialization of Made in Ontario IP. Our business development experts, so myself and the team that I'm a part of, we are the boots on the ground for OCI. We are in the major centers across Ontario. If you're in the Hamilton region, we've got BDs for you there. Same with the KW, Toronto, Ottawa regions. I myself actually cover Northern Ontario, so I'm coming to you from my basement in Sudbury, but I'm happy to be here supporting the folks in Hamilton and being able to have this conversation with you about the programs that we offer. So we have a very varied expertise on our team, lots of folks with varied backgrounds, experts in their own rights when it comes to various sectors. I myself have a focus on mining technologies and environmental technologies, but we've got folks that cover the gamut from computer science and engineering to life sciences to advanced manufacturing and kind of everything else in between. We all come into this with our own extensive networks. So the big benefit outside of funding that OCI offers is the fact that we're able to connect a lot of those dots. We're able to connect the companies that we're working with the various expertise across Ontario that you might need to advance your company, getting connected to an angel network so that you can raise the money that you need, or take advantage of other resources that exist in the ecosystem, like those offered at the Regional Innovation Center here at Innovation Factory. We work very closely with all the academic institutions across Ontario. So again, if you are looking for an expert in your field, chances are we're able to find them and connect them with you. These are the programs that we offer. So I'm going to just touch on these very slightly, and then we're going to jump a little bit more in depth when we're talking about the Voucher for Innovation and Productivity and the Market Readiness Co-Investment Fund. But you should also know that we steward and operate the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network here at OCI, formerly the Autonomous Vehicle Innovation Network, but recently rebranded to OVIN. You actually have a test center. You have a technology development site right there at Hamilton, attached to McMaster University. So hopefully you're aware of what those resources look like, but just in general, the programs available through OVEN support the technology development around connected autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, and the infrastructure and software that makes all that happen. With OVEN, actually, we're now venturing into electric vehicles. So we're also covering projects that support the development of battery chemistry and various battery technologies. So if you're working on a startup or you're part of a company that has anything to do with mobility in the mobility space, chances are there's a fit for you in one of our programs at OVEN. And happy to have a conversation with you after the fact if you want to dive a little deeper into what is available to you there. I'm going to lump Encore and our Next Generation Networks programs together. These programs support various networking and communication technologies. So the Next Generation Networks has a couple test beds that you can access, again, in Ottawa, Toronto, and Kitchener-Waterloo, and actually underground at the NORCAT test mine up here in Sudbury. This allows you to take advantage of supercomputing technologies, being able to develop technologies that are doing that kind of computation at the edge, and all sorts of other networking, taking advantage of the new and the bleeding edge of networking technologies through SenGen. Encore 5G, very similar. Again, those test beds are available in KW, Toronto, and Ottawa, and this is access to a pre-commercial 5G test bed that has all sorts of bells and whistles as a sandbox that you can take advantage of. So if you are working on ICT or communications technologies and developing or building 5G into your product as part of your product roadmap, I highly encourage you checking out that program. And again, happy to have a conversation with you about it. And so we're going to dive into the main programs that we're here to chat about, which is our voucher for innovation and productivity. So the VIP is it's our bread and butter. It's our staple program here at OCI. And really what this does is it supports R&D collaboration between Ontario's industry, companies, startups across Ontario, and allowing them to take advantage of and leverage the expertise available to them at the post-secondary institutions across Ontario. And this allows them to solve industry-based challenges and drive the commercialization of any intellectual property that's generated as a part of a project. With this program, we also have partnerships with NSERC, BDC, IRAP, the Canadian Intellectual Property Office, and the IAC. Okay, so a little bit more about our voucher for innovation and productivity. Again, it really is there to support the industry academic partnerships and help the companies leverage the expertise available. So, laboratories, various testing facilities, and even the human capital, those smart individuals walking around campus. This is really a program that allows you to take advantage of all that great stuff that our post-secondary institutions have available to them. And when I say post-secondary, I mean both universities and colleges, as well as the research hospitals across Ontario. The goal here is to generate economic benefit for companies. As a funding agency, what we're always concerned about is, are we creating jobs? Are we creating wealth? And are we helping drive investment attraction and ultimately making more competitive companies here in Ontario? Those are the end goals. That's the economic outputs that we're looking to see at the project end. But in terms of the projects that we can support, it's varied. It's sector agnostic. If there is expertise at a post-secondary institution involved in technology development and innovation, chances are there's a potential for a VIP project there. As a company, we ask that you be a for-profit corporation, have been in business for at least 2 years, and have a minimum of 5 full-time employees. That 5 full-time employees can also be made up of contractors and consultants. Just to keep that in mind, because we do realize that some startups, they might not have that 5 full-time employee yet, and that a VIP would allow them actually to get to the place where they're able to hire. Also worthwhile touching on the part that says, the folks working on these projects are most likely masters and PhD students, individuals that could potentially land at your company. So this is a great way to test drive talent as well for your company. And given the state of the labor market, it's not a bad idea to see this as an opportunity for your company as well. OCI will match funding from $20,000 up to $150,000 through this program. And we do ask for a one-to-one match. So for $20,000 out of OCI, we would ask that the company puts in $20,000. The bulk of this money does go to the institution. So this program is a little different in that the grant does not actually go to the company. The grant and the funding goes to the academic institution to complete the project on your behalf. So this is how it works. This is just a very basic breakdown of how the funding can work. So if we're looking at a $100,000 project, again, $50,000 from industry, unlocks $50,000 from OCI for a total of $100,000 project. The benefit of the VIP funding here too is of your cash contribution. So of that $50,000 in this example that's coming from your company, 50% of that, or $25,000, can actually come from labor associated and connected to the project. So if you've got your engineering team, your software development team working on a project hand in hand with the primary investigator at the academic institution, you can actually match that contribution. You can capture that as part of your cash contribution to the institution or to the VIP program. So for $25,000 cash and then $25,000 in labor, you unlock $50,000 from OCI. Which again helps you really stretch your R&D dollars and go a little bit farther. I like to tell companies, this is a great way of basically doubling your R&D budget if it's limited, or even if it's not. That extra cash can really be a benefit. And again, the academic institutions across Ontario, they have all sorts of really fantastic equipment and laboratory space. Machining space, testing space, prototyping spaces that you might not have the ability to invest in yourselves. So this is a great way, again, of accessing that equipment to really advance your company and the technology that you're building. Eligible expenses, the bulk of the funding does end up going to those highly qualified highly qualified personnel. That's what HQP stands for. So those master's, PhD students and the professors working on the project. Typically, we see about 60% of the total project budget end up with HQP and salaries. And then consumables and lab fees are also eligible expenses as part of this. We tend not to focus on the funding of equipment because there are lots of other funding. There's lots of other funding programs available that support equipment. So we do limit that to 20% of the overall budget. And again, all of the eligible expenses, including the guidelines, are available online on our website. I do like to brag that OCI has one of the better websites out there in terms of being able to provide the information that you need to make a decision on whether or not it's worthwhile to pursue a project. So you can download the templates for the project application. The guidelines are all there in terms of eligible expenses, and you can peruse them at your own leisure and really get informed on how these projects work. Again, I live it every day, so I'm not going to say it's straightforward because nothing when it comes to government funding is necessarily straightforward. But I think we do a very good job at OCI at making it very easy to navigate at the very least. It is worth noting that at the university level, overhead is a separate cost that is borne by the industry partner, and this varies from institution to institution. It can be there can be no overhead, or it can be as high as 30% of the total project. So just keep that in mind, and it's worthwhile asking that when we are approaching, a post-secondary institution to take part in a project. And we're very much aware of it, and we're happy to help again with that conversation. Here is how this process typically works when it comes to outlining and developing a project through the VIP. We like to meet with both the company and the primary investigator sit down and make sure both parties are on the same page when it comes to scoping out the project. In some cases, we will insist on visiting the industry partners' facilities just to make sure it is a real entity. But of course, a lot of these things can also be done virtual these days. Again, we're there to help formulate the project, make sure it falls within the scope of the VIP, and making sure that all the guidelines are being met and the eligibility requirements are clear. We're pretty hands-on, so I personally have spent quite a bit of time with companies helping them draft the applications, making sure all the relevant information is there. Now, I'm not saying I write the applications. I'm saying I'm happy to help comment and steer the application in the right direction. From there, we would open an application in Access OCI, which is the portal that we use for developing the applications. We don't like these things to linger though. So we do give you about a 30-day deadline from the opening of the application to the actual submission of the application. Obviously, extenuating circumstances, we can adjust and accommodate. But for the most part, we don't want those things to linger 60, 70, 80 days in there. We'd rather turn it around and get it out fast, because it just makes everything flow a little bit easier and for our pipeline. And when it comes to submission, there is an internal review by our finance team and our program managers, and then there's an external review from a college of reviewers that span the gamut of expertise, and these are all folks that come from the post-secondary world. So they're very capable of commenting and scoring and reviewing these applications. And then there's some additional information about how the project is funded. For those that are visual learners like myself, I always like to throw this in just to make it clear as to what that process looks like. Again, 2 to 4 weeks, 30-day max, usually from application open to submission. Once it is submitted, turnaround times typically take between 8 to 10 weeks. We have seen them turn around relatively quite a bit faster. I won't commit to saying that we'll get it back to you, an answer back to you in 10 days, but we have seen that happen over the last couple months. We have some new reviewers that are quite eager, and it certainly has raised some eyebrows in terms of how fast we're able to turn these applications around. So we are very responsive as a funding organization, and we can get you to a decision relatively quickly. Of course, if you do get a no on the application, you always have the opportunity to reapply. And in fact, most of the time when, based on the feedback that we receive, we're able to adjust the application accordingly. And we have a pretty high success rate of having those reapplications actually be approved. If we get to a yes, then of course we move on to actually signing the funding agreement and getting the project started. As part of the VIP, we also have a partnership with NSERC. So the leverage here is a little bit different. So the standalone VIP, you'll hear us call it the standalone VIP. It's that 1-to-1 match up to $150,000 or more. Sorry, $150,000, but the project can be more than the $300K. But when it comes to the NSERC Engage, we can actually go 30, 30, 30, up to 30. So $30,000 in cash from the industry partner unlocks $30,000 from OCI plus $30,000 from NSERC. So the leverage is a little bit better. The budget is a little bit more limited to that $90,000, and the eligibility is a little tighter just because we're bound by NSERC's eligibility. But again, it's worthwhile pursuing, particularly if you're looking to make your R&D funding go a little bit farther. The process for this is a little different because we live in NSERC's portal to get this one done, and typically their application process takes a little bit longer. But at the end of the day, again, you're getting a better leverage for your dollars. And again, it's pretty straightforward, and NSERC is also pretty hands-on when it comes to putting these applications through. If you have any questions about this, again, feel free to populate the chat, and we'll be able to get to them after the fact here. So tips for strong projects. I like to throw this slide in here just to be clear. on what our expectations are when these projects come in. So the VIP really is there to focus on overcoming a challenge or barrier that you're having in developing your technology. So there needs to be a clear research challenge for the primary investigator. So that's the professor or the researcher that you're working with at the post-secondary institution. You know, we need to solve problem X in order to, you know, get our, you know, go after this market, or to be able to, you know, improve our technology in this way. But there really needs to be a really clear deliverable about, you know, this is why we're engaging the college or university, and this is what they're going to do for us. And then, yeah, again, that clear deliverable at the end. So at the end of this project, this is what the post-secondary institution is going to be handing back over to the company, whether it be, you know, a new widget, a new prototype, yeah, software development, you know, something, but it just needs to be very clear. Again, this is for our reporting, and it makes your reporting easier as well at the end of this all. But it needs to be clear what that deliverable is. And again, the business development folks here at OCI are here to help make sure that is clear. Apologies, is clear in the application itself. And then at the end of the day, what we're really keen to know is, from the industry partner, once you have that deliverable, what are you doing with it? How are you going to commercialize it? How are you going to bring it to market? Because at the end of the day, that's really what this program is all about, is making sure that that new innovation, that new technology finds its way to the marketplace and is there to help, and your company essentially reaps the benefits of that. Okay, and then that's why we get into the, you know, these demonstrable benefits of benefits to the Ontario economy. Again, what we're looking for is how many jobs are you creating? Are you generating new revenue? Are you attracting new investment? Those kinds of things. Those are the economic outputs, and unless that's apologies again, unless that's clear in the application, chances are the project won't be funded, or there'll be some questions asked at the end. But again, that's what I'm here for. That's what the team I work with is for. We're here to help steward these applications through, to make sure that all this stuff is answered in your application. Like any good funding organization, we also have reporting requirements. So there is a final progress and claims report, an annual progress and claims report, and we will ask, depending on the length of the project. So projects here can range from 6 to 24 months. We ask, you know, when the project is over the 12-month mark, we do ask for quarterly progress reports, just to make sure that everything's staying on track. And then there is a retrospective survey to capture those economic outputs at the end of it. And we will ask you to complete that survey up to 3 years after the project has been completed. Again, not overly onerous. We don't want to be in your ear bugging you, but just so that you're aware, we will be asking you for basically for those survey results. It'll probably take about 5 to 10 minutes to complete the survey. Okay, so that's the VIP. Again, there to support the collaboration between academic institutions, the collaboration between industry partners to take advantage of the expertise available at the academic institutions across Ontario. This other program that we're going to talk about is our Market Ready Co-Investment Fund. So this is actually not a grant funding program. This is not non-dilutive capital. This is an actual investment in your company. And we have a pretty tight investment thesis around this, but for startups, for any of the startups on the call here that are coming through the Forge, or you know, are building off of technologies coming out of McMaster University or any other university across Ontario, chances are you're eligible for our Market Readiness Fund. Okay, and we'll get into it here now. So the basic eligibility around market readiness is that the company has to have raised less than $1 million in third-party capital. So that's angel investment or VC. Okay, that does not include family and friends or from perhaps an earlier stage round. The company cannot be incorporated for more than 5 years. Okay, so again, this is that pre-seed, that's an early stage company target audience that we're going for here. And the principal operations have to be in Ontario. What that means in the virtual work from anywhere world is that your headquarters here is in Ontario, and the majority of your workforce resides here in Ontario. You have to have currently or previously been affiliated with a university, college, or research hospital, a campus accelerator or incubator in Ontario. That campus accelerator / incubator, not an incubator, it has to be part of the campus. Should clarify there. So for those that are members of the Forge or graduates of the Forge, you would be eligible for this program because the Forge is McMaster's campus linked accelerator. If you're tuning in from Toronto somehow, if you're going through CDL or you're going through iCube or you're going through the DMZ, if you're part of Velocity or the Accelerator Center, those are all also eligible accelerator or incubator programs that we would look at companies coming out of. Okay, and then the key point here is also we are looking to invest in companies that have intellectual property. So there needs to be IP as part of the company. And usually that IP has been generated at one of these post-secondary institutions. So a little bit more about our investment thesis. And again, because we're investing, we're essentially investing taxpayers' dollars, we have a very tight investment thesis, and it's also there to separate us from other angel groups and other investment funds that are available across Ontario, of which there are lots. Again, if you're unsure of what opportunities might exist for you, chances are OCI, knows where those resources exist and can connect you to them. Okay, so again, we want to invest in Ontario-based competitive IP companies with disruptive next generation technologies. Obviously, that's subjective, and we leave that to us to decide at OCI. And we're really here, this fund really here is to support the growth and scale of that business. That's why it's market readiness. It's getting that, it's from that technology. You built the MVP, you might have some early traction, and we're looking to take it into market, and that's what this investment is going to support. Again, this is just kind of reiterating the eligibility there. Make sure I've got the differentiation. So there are two streams. There's a $125,000 stream and there's a $250,000 stream. It really depends on the stage of the company and the market traction that you have. Those earlier stage companies that are really just starting to get into the market, probably the 125. If you're already in the market, you've got recurring revenue, you've been at it for a year or so in the marketplace, and you're looking to raise an additional seed round between $3 million plus $250,000 is probably the stream that we'd be looking at there for you. Okay, the space that we're looking to play in are those seed rounds between $500,000 and $3 million. Anything less than that is probably still too early for us. And again, we're looking for strong IP, business acumen, and a clear articulation of how you're going to execute on your go-to-market strategy. So that's kind of that piece right there is critical. It's also worth noting that OCI will not, maybe I have this on my next slide. No, I do not. So it's also worth noting that OCI will not be the lead investor. Okay, so this is a matching investment fund. That's why it's a co-investment fund. So in order for us to invest $125,000 or $250,000, we need at least that in matching from in matching funds from private investors. So these are accredited angels or venture capital. All right, we don't count non-dilutive or grant funding as part of that. It needs to be private investment. And typically, again, more. So if you will have $125,000 and you're hoping to match that against our $125,000, we'll tell you haven't gotten to that 500K threshold yet. Okay, there needs to be, we're really hoping to leverage more private sector investment. And we're really just there to round out the round and be a boost and make sure that we're investing in, that Ontario is investing in those next generation of technologies. So again, OCI will not lead a round. We are a matching fund. We usually come in after you've secured a lead investor, and we're there to also perhaps even connect you with other angel investors that your company might fit into. The process for this looks something like this. Again, I'm a visual learner, so bear with me. The quick and dirty piece of this is number one, is the company eligible? Okay, and do you fit within our do you fit within our investment thesis? We have an internal investment team that looks at all the companies that are coming in. So we would ask that you pitch our internal investment team, and from there, that's the first gate. Okay, we'll say yes or no. This company fits. It makes sense. There's a good opportunity here. We'll move you towards opening an application. So again, there is an application component to this. It's a little bit more in depth. We're asking this because we ask this because, again, we are investing taxpayers' dollars, and it allows us to do the due diligence that we are required to do. So the company would complete the application. We do an investment memo ourselves. We ask for at least 3 contacts to do our due diligence with, and there are some additional documents that need to be provided along with the application in terms of the term sheet, cap sheet, and financial projections, and perhaps other due diligence documents that you might be able to provide. And then at the very end, once we get through the application, there is a pitch to the final review panel. The review panel, it consists of our executive team and the various angels and investors. So we very similar to what we have with the VIP. There is a college of reviewers, if you will, that are made up of individuals from the various angel networks across Ontario. So the benefit to this program is once you get through it, number one, your pitch, obviously there's the capital and the investment opportunity, but there's also the opportunity to get in front of other angel groups and potentially pursue additional funding or investment through them. So it is a good way to kind of leverage the whole network at once through OCI. Just thinking if I've missed anything here, just real quick. Timelines for this, it is a rolling intake. With a kind of rolling intake, but really what we like to have is pitches at the beginning of the month with the final executive pitch at the end of the month. Again, we're trying to be company friendly here. We're trying to turn these around relatively quickly because we know that rounds open and close can open and close relatively quickly. So we like to work within the company's timelines here. It's never too early to have this conversation with us about market readiness. If you're just starting to think about the round, raising a round, it's still a good time to chat with us, even if you might still be a little early. Because again, once you do that in that lead investor, we're able to put you into this process pretty quick. Okay, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions about this fund, and I'm happy to answer them because I actually am on the internal investment team as well. To give you a sense of the kind of deal flow that we do get through this program, our team saw close to 80 companies pitch market readiness, of which 19 applications were opened. And I think we actually invested in about 13 or 14 companies this year. So it is material, it is competitive, as any investment is. So again, just keep that in mind. All right, that's it. I'm done talking, at least for a little bit here. So I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen and see what kind of questions we have in the chat. And I see that Jody, you've got your hand raised, so perhaps I'll start with you.
Hi, thank you very much, Kyle. My name is Jody and I own Bella Biochar Corporation here in Ontario. Bella Biochar is a premium manufacturer of premium quality biochar made from landfill diverted biomass. And we meet all of the requirements. My question is that in addition to producing biochar, we also capture carbon. Okay. And we've just actually partnered with Puro Earth as a carbon removal partner. I'm just wondering, I understand the equity investment. Is there any potential for non-equity investment for companies that are looking to improve their environmental and social governance, or looking to help companies scale up that, you know, want to improve carbon capture? For example, right now we capture about 1,500 metric tons a year of carbon, but we can scale up to 20,000 tons a year per plant.
Sorry, so the question is, you know, can OCI support you in doing some of that, the business development that you're looking to do?
So in non-equity investment, is there any connection to groups or companies that are looking for non-equity investment just to improve their environmental and social governance or to improve scale up for carbon capture in Canada?
Okay, so I'll speak only to what OCI offers. So the
Okay.
non-equity or the non-dilutive funding, like the grant funding, that would be a VIP. So if you were looking to, if you had an industry partner that was looking to capture their carbon, and they were looking at integrating your technology with the help of an academic institution, there could be an opportunity there. If it is EV related, that might be a bit tough to shoehorn into an OBIN project. OBIN works a little differently in the sense that there has to be an industry. It's basically an industry partner and the company, and the industry partner is demonstrating market pull, and then we fund a project so that the company can build the technology or the solution towards what with what their industry partner wants. But what you're talking about, I don't think that quite fits. I would encourage you perhaps to look at other funding programs available through even FedDev, depending on where you're located in Southern Ontario, or other programs or other organizations that are there to support clean technologies. So there's the Bioenterprise Center. There's a clean tech in Peterborough. There's a clean tech industrial park. There's a number of clean tech organizations and support organizations that I think if you reach out to the folks at IF, or even if you connect with me offline, we'd be able to point you in the right direction. But I don't think.
Yeah, if you could give me some contact information, I'm sure you can get mine from the seminar here. So if you wouldn't mind sending me an email, and so I can discuss this with you further, because I don't want to take up everybody's time. But what you described, we are a member of NSERC. We're partnered with Western University, and I do have a group. We have a number of groups who are pursuing us for carbon capture right now. For every ton we produce of biochar, we capture 3 metric tons of carbon. So we do fit those requirements that you initially referred to. But again, if you can contact me after, I really appreciate it.
For sure. I'll work with Greta to get that.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right, I see another hand up there.
Maybe it's me.
Arjuna, yep, that's you.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I have a question in the chat, which I'll reiterate, but I have another question. So one is, why is your thesis so focused on IP that's generated at the research institutes? Because companies can generate their own IP as well. Yeah, so you're very, very strict on that. And the other related question is, this IP, does it have to be something that we've patented, got in writing, or can it be part of a strategy that we present to you? Okay,
so to answer the first question, the focus on intellectual property coming out of an academic institution is because that is what OCI's mandate is. That's why we get funding from the Ministry of Economic Development to do. We're here to support the commercialization of intellectual property coming out of academic institutions. The government funds academic institutions. They pay for the equipment. They pay for a lot of those kinds of things. So we're here to support the commercialization of that, to make sure that Ontario benefits from those dollars that are being spent at the academic institutions. It also focuses us as an organization and separates us kind of from what else is available in the marketplace. So that's the reason why it's so tight. That's why the focus on intellectual property coming out of an academic institution, realizing full well that companies can develop their own IP. That's great. We'd love to see that. And we can actually support the development of their own IP through a voucher for innovation and productivity. But if you've generated it internally and are looking to access it, the only way to take advantage of it would be if you were affiliated with a campus-linked accelerator like the Forge. And then, sorry, the second piece was.
Well, it's kind of irrelevant now, but maybe for the benefit of others, does it have to be all legalese, or can it be part of an IP strategy?
So typically when you're coming out of the IP is coming out of an academic institution, there's a patent or there's something around it. But we have support. But startups coming out of a campus-linked accelerator might not have the dollars or spent the money on the patents. But what we were looking for then is, what does your strategy look like? Do you have, as part of the raise, are you apportioning dollars towards patents and additional intellectual property development? Trade secrets, yeah, absolutely. Those are all perfectly, those are all perfectly valid pieces of IP, and we have funded companies that just have trade secrets and know-how. But for the vast majority of our investments are focused on companies that have that patent, they have that intellectual property in that way. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Market readiness, bridge round if lead identified, debt instrument safe or convertible note. So sure, I'm just going to jump here. I realize you've got your hand up there, Lisa, but I'm just going to answer that one in the chat real quick. Bridge round if a lead isn't evident. So we have invested in lead rounds, bridge rounds. Again, it depends on what the size of the round looks like, and if you have the appropriate matching funding or matching investment. When it comes to debt instruments, we prefer convertible notes or convertible debentures. Don't usually touch safes. So if you come to us with a safe, we'll take a look at it, but it's a little harder for us to invest in a safe, only because, again, we are investing taxpayers' dollars, and safes make it a little harder for us to put a value on the company, which is kind of necessary based on our funding agreements. So we'll take a look, but no promises. Hopefully that answers your question, Matthew. I don't even know if he's still on here. Oh, there he is. Yeah. Lisa?
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for today's call. Quick question in regard to it's for Women's Global Health Innovations. We're actually at the McMaster Innovation Park. We're in the same building with Atrium as OCI. In regard to the Market Ready Co-Investment Fund, the basic eligibility. Now, we've only been on the market for 2 years right now because we are in research at the University of Toronto and then a research institute in Paris. But we do manufacture our product here in Ontario, and we are on the market, and it has been validated. But we did incorporate way back in 2013, but we were not in the market. So is there any, we were not selling at all. It was just, we were in the research phase at that particular time. Is there any flexibility there in regard? We don't have an investment over $1 million, et cetera, no seed round, pretty much invested through grants because we're a social enterprise as well.
Okay, so exceptions can be made if you can show, we really didn't start operating as a company until 2017, 2018, and then you're within that eligibility timeline. But again, understanding full well that this is a competitive program. Right. So, if there are other companies that we're looking at that fit the eligibility criteria a little bit more cleanly, we might take a longer look at those as opposed to what you've got going on. Now, that's not to say that we can't support you or we wouldn't take a look. We absolutely would entertain a conversation and see what we could do to support you. And if it's not us, again, we have those connections to the angel networks across Ontario. So if it's not us, but you fit into someone else's investment thesis, we're happy to make those connections for you.
Okay, so it's beneficial to actually speak. Okay, that's great. Question in regard to, two questions there. It was in regard to the business development and commercialization. What am I looking at? The voucher, the VIP project, the 20 to 150. In regard to us, we are now speaking with a life sciences researcher at McMaster, specifically for the development of another product. So that we would, can you apply for 2 OCI completely separate?
Yeah, you could apply for market readiness and a VIP at the same time.
Okay.
What we want, we don't like to fund 2 VIPs at the same time though for the same company. Okay. But that sounds like a perfect fit for the VIP actually. So if you have an academic, if you have a researcher already working with you that is at Mac, you've got the project scoped out and you're just kind of looking at how you're going to make it work and how you're going to fund it. That sounds like a great opportunity for a VIP. So I think we should also connect offline and we can talk a little bit more about what that project looks like.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kyle.
Perfect. Sylvia, I see that you just put a question in the chat. For a project that is well defined with specific objectives, matching with academic institutions. Can you perhaps elaborate on that? What do you mean by industry matching with academic institutions?
Hi, Kyle. Let me sort of clarify. So if we are looking, so we do have a specific project that we have applied for IRAP funding.
Yep.
And we're looking for a specific skill set, right? So we thought, maybe this is another option avenue that we can see if we can get this project funded. And we've been working with a number of different universities, but we are looking for a specific AI skill set. So I'm wondering if through OCI, if you do any matching with potential other universities,
Yes.
than the people that we have already connected with.
Absolutely. So if you have a profile for the expert or the kind of research that you're looking to undertake, and I think you said AI, so my immediate jump is either U of T or even Waterloo to some extent, but most of the time that ends up at U of T. We have those connections. We're able to facilitate that connection. In fact, we're here to help do some of that matchmaking. So again, if you're a company, you don't necessarily have to come to us with a project wrapped up. If you're a company here and you're just like, hey, I have this thing, I really need to, I need this done for my technology, for my product. I need to work on it, but I don't know where to turn. OCI is a great door to knock on because we can facilitate those connections between your company and the academic institution or the researcher and expert. In fact, we do it all the time.
Okay, amazing. So maybe I can chat with you offline. I'll connect.
Perfect. And for those, I did throw my email into the chat box. So encourage you to just send me a note. I live in my inbox, as I'm sure most of you do. So I like to pride myself on getting back relatively quickly. So if you do, if something here has triggered a thought and you just wanted some clarification, or if you have a project in mind, by all means, just shoot me an email. I will mention, Sylvia, just because you did mention IRAP, I will say OCI does not stack against other funding programs. Sorry, our VIP does not stack against other funding programs. So if you have $100,000 from IRAP to do a project, you can't use that $100,000 from IRAP to match against an OCI VIP. It has to be new money. It has to be coming from the company. Just so we're clear on that. But that rarely gets in the way of projects. All right.
Okay, but it could be sort of, so it's just not the grants, right? You cannot.
Yeah, it just can't be the grant money. But if you're working, if you got, yeah.
Okay.
Close to time here. That's about 5 minutes. 5 minutes to go. Oh, sorry. My colleague is reminding me that the SDTC. I forget who had the clean tech. Sorry. But if you're the clean tech company there and you're looking for additional support for your clean venture, is it Sustainable Development Technology Canada, SDTC, I think is a door worth knocking on as well. Again, we live in the ecosystem, so and we're in touch with all these programs, all the regional innovation centers, and everyone else in between. So again, we're happy to make those connections to those other resources available to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining. It was great session. Kyle, thank you for all the information. I will send out a follow-up email, which will include Kyle's deck as well as his information. So stay tuned for that in the next few days, and hopefully we'll see Kyle again. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely will. Thank you. Appreciate it.